Going into Ivy, you had Calvin Heimberg in the lead at 21. You had Ezra Robinson at 20. Then you had Aaron Gossage and Kyle Klein tied at 18. Round 3, Isaac Robinson decides Ivy Hill is a joke.
Ivy.
He shot 12 under with 2 bogeys. He bogeyed the opening hole and he bogeyed hole 16 and still got 12 under. He bet 14 birdies.
With no wind, like I would have almost guaranteed he was going to win.
Yeah.
Because like he does know how to navigate that course extremely well.
So that gave him a 1-stroke lead going into the final round over Calvin Heimberg. Aaron Gossage was at 26 under, 2 back, and then his brother Ezra Robinson was at 24 under, 4 back. So now we kind of start things off, and Aaron Gossage opening up this round looked untouchable. He was 7 under, I believe it was, through the first 11 holes. He had 1 bogey in that stretch and I believe 8 birdies, something like that. The dude was just on fire.
He was
Meanwhile,
just hyzering the course to death.
Yeah.
Forehands, backhands, you name it, just hyzering it to death.
Well, I had talked to several people, and someone did walk up to me and said, make sure on Grip Block you mention this is a very goose-heavy crowd. And I will say, did feel like it. It did feel like most people there wanted Aaron to win. Just talking to people out there. But the other thing is when I was like walking up to hole 2, people kept walking up asking me like, hey, who do you think's going to win? And my answer constantly was, I think Calvin or Gossage is going to. And my logic there was I thought both of them relied on more overstable plastic. But why I really liked Gossage is I said the wind will neutralize his putt. And he has such a big forehand and backhand that crosswinds affect him a lot less.
That's the big one. I mean, literally it happened on the very first hole. It only took 1 hole, and Isaac gets pinched right, and the shot would have had to been a backhand turnover, but with the wind, tail right to left, he didn't have a chance in the world. He has to try and cut it up the right side, which he has some success and then misses the putt. But, like, it was that first hole you're kind of like, yeah, that's a big deal to not be able to throw your turnover because the wind is
Gossage can just throw those laser beams under the wind.
Well, he also Gossage's forehand is so massive that it's like when he like
straight hyzer.
If Isaac has to go to a forehand, it's a disadvantage for him over his backhand. Like Aaron obviously sacrifices distance from backhand to forehand, but his forehand still has the power of most people's backhand.
Yeah,
so it's like it doesn't really matter.
Ezra's in the same boat as Isaac.
So much
backhand just couldn't work.
So Aaron kind of just takes command of the tournament, and honestly, I was walking the whole round, and like everyone was like excited, but we were also kind of just like, man, like a lot of people were like around hole 14. After hole 14, you have to walk up this hill, this massive hill.
It was like, do we just?
And like the general consensus was like, after this hole, I think a lot of people were about to leave.
Yeah,
like it was kind of like this thing's over, so let's just get through this, walk up the hill, and then we're just gonna keep walking to our cars. And I kind of felt that. Like, I was going to watch it till the end because I, at that point, would walk 13 holes. But it felt like a very thing of, like, this is over. It's starting to rain a little bit. Why am I out here? You know what I mean? And then Calvin, we do have to address his opening stretch. The dude threw OB/hazard 6 times in the first 12 holes.
So crazy.
So he was 1 under through 12. He was 1 under through 12 holes. And like I said, meanwhile, Aaron Gossage was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 under through 12 holes. So Gossage had gained 6 strokes over Calvin, putting him, 5 strokes in front of him. So going into hole 14, Calvin is 5 strokes behind. Isaac Robinson, I believe, is 3 strokes behind.
Yeah, I think so.
Going into 14 of Aaron Gossage. So yeah, pretty boring going into hole 14. Now, if you watch this weekend, you already know hole 14 is where all the drama happened. Hopefully, I can provide some context, some clarity.
I think you can, hon.
And also confusion. Because, there's some things I can't answer. But so initially what happens is Aaron Gossage throws his tee shot, left OB. Okay? Pretty far up the fairway. He's in a fine spot where, like, he could have laid up, could have attacked. It's kind of up to him. Again, has a decent-sized lead. But, it's an important green to get to. Tight island green, up on top of the hill, rocks in front.
He was very upset about the tee pads.
Hindsight's 2020, but, like, I guess knowing that you just have to get to the island to hit the drop zone is probably why he goes for it there. But, like, there is a universe where maybe the extra, like, big brain golfer just lays that up after going. And just, like, you know what? If I lay up to the corner, this hole gets pretty easy for me to walk out. I mean, he would have been throwing 3, 4. He would have taken a double.
Well,
maybe he's thinking it's not that hard to at least touch inbounds.
That's what I'm saying. I think he just had to try to cross.
Line of thought.
Yeah. Right, just try to cross.
Isaac Robinson on this whole initial drive turns over right into the right stuff, kicks, rolls back inbounds. Okay, then Isaac's next shot doesn't get up there, and I believe rolls back inbounds again, if I'm remembering it correctly. Isaac, because to be honest with you, a lot to think about after Isaac's second shot. Don't fully remember what happened, but I'm pretty sure Isaac got lucky twice there. I'm almost positive.
Oh,
his second shot.
His second shot hit the hill
and rolled back inbounds.
And it was like he shanked it, so he pulled it right. Because they actually thought he laid up, but if you saw like look on his face, he was trying to go for it. He yanked it right. It landed like a third of the way up the hill and then spun down there.
So both shots got lucky.
Yeah.
Because he rolled inbounds the first one or hit the tree and dropped inbounds. Because that was one where like the spotter was across the fairway and waved his green flag, and I was on the other side of the fairway, and I was like, that is a bold call from across the fairway because like that disc is on the line. That thing could easily be out of bounds. But the spotter was just like, send it, green flag. He was right. It was in bounds. But anyway, so Isaac gets back-to-back lucky. Gossage throws. And this shot, from initial perspective, hits the rock, stays OB. Okay? That shot, him throwing, I was at the very other end next to the island watching him back. And literally so he wasn't the first to throw. So he had time to already be looking at his shot. So not factoring that, though, once it was his turn to throw, probably 2 minutes.
It was very long.
Standing at his lie with the umbrella. I don't really know what he was doing, but then eventually, I was literally thinking, I'm looking at the wrong player. Someone else is throwing right now. And then I could see everyone else with their bags on. I was like, he's the one supposed to be throwing. And then he finally puts his bag down and then comes over with his disc and then starts his routine that already is borderline 30 seconds, his routine. This is like a minute and a half in. So after he throws the shot, someone from the Pro Tour walks over and gives him a time warning. No stroke, just a time warning. I talked to some people in the crowd.
You couldn't pay me $1 billion.
Yeah. Talked to some people in the crowd who were next to him, and obviously he like had the exchange with the guy of like, seriously, dude, like you're going to call me on that on the biggest shot of my tournament. You know, which is a fair point, but it's also the way the current rule is written, it doesn't matter if it's the biggest shot of your tournament or not. You got 30 seconds, and like I said, he had more time than 30 seconds because he wasn't the first one out. He walked up. He probably would have legally had at least a minute and a half of looking at it, but he, if you take the full time, probably spent 3 to 4 minutes on that shot.
It's the flaw in the rules, right? Where like they're trying to micromanage time, but this is why the most effective way to do this is you're timing the group as a whole, you're spotting instances, and you're trying to manage it much more as a whole product rather than each individual, unless you have to, because this is the last card on the course. They're not holding anybody up. Everybody who's there watching this unfold is like wants to be there. So there is absolutely no situation where you should, as a rule spotter, have to make that call, because you're right. You can't really fault the guy. I mean, if I was him, I would have just like forgot. I would have just acted like I had lost my memory if somebody asked me why I didn't call him, because I would never have called him in that spot. But you don't want to have to be in the position where that is your job, like in that case, because you got to like allow for that moment.
Which he did.
Which he did for 2 minutes.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing is
he went up to him after he threw the shot.
Yeah,
correct.
He did it in the best way he could have.
Yeah,
and
I don't see a better way.
Very justified. Because again, I mean, I've watched
also
a lot of disc
Gossage
golf.
landed in balance, he probably wouldn't have been as mad.
I've watched a lot of disc golf,
tough.
and I don't think I've ever been in a situation where like my mind is going, someone's got to call this guy. And this was a situation where I was standing back there and I was sitting there watching going, someone's got to call this guy.
It was dramatic.
Because I was like, this is taking an eternity.
Yeah.
And especially, I don't know if coverage, if they were cutting to other things where you couldn't tell how long it was taking. But like, I was standing there watching it, and I was like sitting there looking around just like,
back
what
to
is
the
going
umbrella,
on?
back to the bag, back to
so
the
anyways,
lie.
He throws it, and now here comes the dramatic part, right? Because this was where on the grounds there was a lot of confusion because we all know what we saw. Okay, I was fortunately didn't really know this time how important my spot was going to be, but I was about as close to the rocks as a spectator can get without being inside the ropes. Okay, so I was like at the corner, and I started doubting myself because what I know I saw was his disc square the rock.
So let me ask you this.
Explain where the OB is.
Yeah,
why
it's
it's important.
Well, how confident are you from where was your viewing angle?
So my view by itself, if it was just me versus the spotter, I would obviously bow
you
to the
versus
spotter.
the camera, who had a better view?
Me, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah,
because
no doubt.
Where I arrived at after watching the slow-mo camera is, does it look like if I had to say yes or no, would I say it hit the rock? Yeah. Like when you first watch it, the only thing that gets weird is that you do see dirt come up.
No, it hit the ground and the rock.
Right.
There's no way for it to hit the ground and not hit the rock in that situation.
But, well, yeah, it would have had to have dug really weird, right? Like
discs are circle.
It would have been a bizarre reaction. But for me, what also sells it, along with the footage, like I said, is pretty condemning, is that people heard it.
That's my.
You can't make that up.
So yeah. So if it was again. If it
explain where the OB is.
So the rocks are slanted, right? Slanted back. The OB is on the outer base of the rocks that go around. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the string is on the outside bottom ground of the rocks. I mean, honestly, almost a little off the rock.
It's probably like a half inch.
But it's if a disc hits this rock at all, it has to cross.
That's why it's important. If the disc hits the rock, it's inbound.
There's no way. It's not like the rocks are leaning this way, where the bottom. Yeah. The rocks are leaning back. So if the disc, it's not even like the rocks are vertical, right? Where the disc could hit the rock and not cross the vertical plane. The rocks are leaned back. Mm-hmm. So if the disc hits the rock, it crossed inbounds.
And that was
the
their
rope
first
is
mistake.
Off the rocks a little bit.
Yeah, that was their first mistake because obviously in the setup of that course, maybe they wanted it to prevent rollaways. That could be why they put the rocks there. But if you wanted it to defend the inbounds area, you need to put the rope on the other side of the rocks.
Yeah. They wanted it for rollaways, for sure.
So I guess it just did something they didn't intend for it to do. Because it was always going to be a weird situation.
If you remember that hole last year, it was down on the hill more, and that was everyone went viral for the rollaways.
Yeah.
So the rocks were put there to prevent the rollaways.
So good call.
That's why they put the OB on the outside. Again, they weren't thinking of this situation.
Got a Maple Hill, go run them over the top.
But yeah, so from my angle, my perspective, when you watch the shot come in, you're not even thinking how important what I'm watching is.
Yeah.
So as soon as the spotter was 100% confident, like I doubted myself of like, I didn't see what I thought I saw. That's where like if it was me versus the spotter and I was the only one, I would have bowed to the spotter because the spotter had a better angle than me because he's on top of the rocks.
He was right there.
But like where I'm at is I was basically.
But he probably couldn't see the back base of the rock.
Also, here's another scandalous thing. He couldn't see the back base of the rock, and he had at least one AirPod in.
He was listening to music. Yeah. Well, I don't know if he was listening to music.
He might not have been listening to music, but in any
in.
case, his hearing was hindered in some way.
Yeah.
Does that mean he doesn't hear it hit the rock?
So let me explain the rest of the situation here. So basically I watch Aaron's shot come in, hit the rock, roll, stay OB. Ezra Robinson throws a shot, hits higher on the rock, much higher.
High rocks.
On the rock, rolls, also stays OB. So my facts in my head is I started walking because if you walk ahead on 15, you have to get up the hill before they tee or else those people are going to yell at you. Mm-hmm. So I was like trying to get up the hill as I'm watching because it's a big hill to walk up.
It's very big.
So I'm kind of walking away. Looking back, because I'm curious, in my head, I thought you had to land on the island to advance to the island. I hadn't read the caddy book yet. So I just thought you have to land on the island to advance the island. So I thought both of them were going to play from the fairway. Well, then a guy's walking past me and said something of like, well, this hole's going to be boring now. They both go to the drop zone. I said, why did they go to the drop zone? He said, I played the AM challenge. If you hit the rocks, you hit inbounds. If you hit inbounds, you go to the drop zone. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, so they're both going to go to the drop zone. So then we both are kind of walking away and kind of looking back. And as I'm looking back, I talked to him and I'm like, the spotter's sending him back down. And the guy's like, what? He hit the rock. I was like, I know. I said, they must be saying neither of them hit inbounds, hitting the rock. That was our initial line of thought. Mm-hmm. Was he sending both Ezra and Aaron back? Because at that point, we all know what we saw. He hit the rock. So we were like, they're both going back to the fairway. Hitting the rock is not in bounds.
Yeah.
So at this point, I actually walked by Nate Heinold and I said something to him about, oh, they hit the rock and they're sending them back. And Heinold's like, oh, the argument must be that the rocks are vertical, lines here, hitting it, you don't technically cross in bounds. That was where Heinold's line of thought went. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that makes sense to me.
That's at least an argument.
Yeah, at least like, okay, I can understand that argument. If the rock's vertical plane, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of my first line of thought. But then where all of us minds get blown is that Ezra Robinson walks up to the drop zone. And we're like, okay, no, the spotter was saying he didn't hit the rock. Mm-hmm. So then at that point, I decided I don't know what I saw.
Big Hunt said time to sleuth.
Because my legit thought was I must be confusing Aaron Gossage's shot with Ezra Robinson's in my head.
Yeah.
And only one of them must have hit the rock. So I knew I had to come on this podcast and talk about this controversy. Mm-hmm. So I decided I'm going to ask pretty much anyone that walks over and says anything to me, I'm going to ask them, where were you on hole 14? What did you see? So I did that. So I have about 20 some, maybe 25 people from all over the fairway.
It was like you played
and
disc
it was
golf Clue.
100% unanimous. Everyone instant, no doubt. He squared the rock. People across the fairway were, I know he hit the rock because I heard the crack of it hitting the rock. So pretty much everyone, like literally, there was not a single person who was like, he might have hit the dirt. Maybe no. On the grounds, it is 100% unanimous. He hit the rock.
The spotter was listening to John Bellion.
So that's the thing. That's where my confidence in my vision being 90% goes up to 100% because I have 20 some other eyewitnesses.
Well, 99.9
that saw the exact. No, I'm 100% confident hit the rock. I'm 100%. I asked 25 people, and
there's only one person
I also
that really
saw
knows,
it.
and it's that rock.
I'm saying the only person that disagrees with it is the spotter.
Yeah.
That's the only person out there that disagreed that he didn't hit the rock.
It's true.
Because every single person I talked to saw the same thing. He squared the rock.
And looking at the camera angle, it looked to me like the spotter being on the other side of the rock. Those rocks are somewhat big. I don't think he could have seen the base of the rock on the other side because he was on the other side of the rocks. So to him, it probably did just look like it hit the dirt. But I think it's because he didn't have a good view of the other side of the rocks.
Well, also, Connor made a good point because from the camera angle, I think there is an argument of like, man, it could have just hit the dirt and done it. But Connor brought this up of like, well, if it would have just hit the ground and not the rock, it would have continued moving up.
Or at least
it would have skipped us.
There's no way for it to hit the ground that close to the rock and not hit the rock at some point.
Well, also, it rolled immediately.
Right. I was going to say, it could have, if there was no rock there at all and it landed, you could see it like flop over and then roll. But
there's no way it would shoot back. There's no way.
The shoot back, it has to hit something. And again,
that's Isaac's third law.
And again, the spectators heard it. Right?
Yeah.
Like
the
what
rock
did they hear?
Around the world.
They didn't just hear dirt. Like you saw dirt kick up. It was raining. It's not like it was loud, hard Virginia clay.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been loud.
No, it was. You heard the rock. So,
was there a rock in the ground in front of the rock?
The rock is buried, so maybe
we have to go investigate the site.
But
guys.
again, like, the thing is,
journalism.
I saw it hit the rock. That's the thing I can't get around. Is like I know I saw it hit the rock. I know, and
dude,
and everyone else with me. Everyone else I talked to saw it hit the rock.
Dude,
and Aaron Gossage saw it hit the rock.
Let's take the cameras and everything with us right now and go to Ivy.
A piece of his disc on that rock, like it would be the greatest thing ever.
Or we can see the slot in the dirt.
That's the thing is, I didn't know how controversial it was, or else I would have stayed behind and walked up there and looked at where it hit.
I'm playing Ivy on Saturday morning.
Walk up there.
I'm gonna go up there.
You better.
I'm gonna go up there and do investigative
there's
reporting.
a plant. Somebody already covered it up.
Oh my gosh!
Somebody put a dirt.
No, it's not
going to
rain all week either. So
anyways,
I'm gonna remind myself.
So why this is important when it's all said and done is because Aaron just had the time warning, right? Then you have the spotter who was very the other thing is another eyewitness account, another spectator. I was at this point up the hill talking to people. Another eyewitness account said that when this whole exchange went down, that the spotter started getting snippy with the crowd because apparently the crowd was all like, when they say it, the crowd starts saying, he hit the rock. Like the crowd's like, we saw him hit the rock. He hit the rock. And the spotter's like, I'm right here. He didn't hit the rock. So the spotter started kind of getting like a little defensive, snippy with the crowd.
I think the spotters have just been told at this point, like if you make
don't
a
back
call,
down.
if you make a call, you have to die on it. Because and I get that, like there is
anytime there's controversial calls, it is like
as
that.
an official, especially if
they're not officials. Spotters are not officials.
They think they are, or
they think
they are.
But I'm saying spotters are just volunteers.
Yeah. Well, clearly they matter a lot more than that because their call is being taken as the law.
Because this is the deal. Everyone else back in the fairway, I think if the entire card would have walked up and said he hit the rock, we're comfortable. Because I've seen this happen at Idlewild. I've seen spotters say, no, it crossed here.
But didn't this happen once and the spotter kind of overruled? Like, didn't we have a situation like this where people were saying otherwise and the spotter's call, like, won?
Well, that's, again, what happened. This situation is Jeff Spring walks up.
Yeah.
Jeff Spring is going to basically overrule them all.
And he went with the spotter.
But because the rest of the card wasn't super confident because they're watching from hundreds of feet back. Mm-hmm. So they're the ones where, like, it looked like it hit the rock, but who am I to argue with the spotter who's right there if you're hundreds of feet away, right? And so if I'm on the card, I'm in the same boat where, like, if I'm 250 feet back, like, yeah, I think it hit the rock, but when I walk up there, I'm not going to say, Gossage, like, he for sure hit the rock, we're going to overrule the spotter, which is what I've seen happen to other Pro Tour events where guys are like,
yeah, I
know the spotter's flag's here. We all agree there's no way that's where that disc crossed. The disc had to have crossed farther up, so we're going to overrule the spotter, and you're going up here. That's fine. That can happen because, again, the spotters are volunteers. They're not officials. But when the spotter's 100% confident, Aaron Gossage is like, I'm pretty sure I hit the rock. And then Jeff Springs there and is saying, look, he was right at it. If he says it didn't hit the rock, it didn't hit the rock.
What I'm thinking
because Jeff Spring was also behind the card, so he's also back there with Gossage and them.
There was a scenario this year that I can't recall exactly which one it was, where the spotter was right there. No other pro was near it. The spotter made the correct call, and then the pros all went up there and was like, no, that's not what happened, and they did what they wanted. That was something that happened this year.
That's legal.
Right, but I'm saying like that's the problem is like sometimes the spotters actually are right, and then they get tossed aside. But that's
what I'm saying
tough.
is the spotter.
At the end of the day, I guess if you're 10 feet away from something that happens, you guys probably know what happened. That's probably
and so that's why they sided with the spotter.
But I mean,
and if I was on the card, I would have sided with the spotter.
Well, where else is he supposed to stand? On that steep hill on the other side of the rocks?
No,
I mean, it makes sense.
That's what I'm saying. And
listen, I'm a big proponent of AirPod Gate at this point. I think the AirPod's got to be out. You got to hear it hit the rock. Then you don't have a question.
Well, but again, because if it was just me and I didn't have 25 other people, I, at this moment, would have been convinced it didn't hit the rock. If I didn't talk to anyone else.
Also, yeah, if you're just a volunteer, because I would have just glanced at one of the guys standing over on the other side and be like, that hit the rock? Oh, okay. Like,
well, AirPod or no AirPod, like if he's standing there, he had to watch 4 shots come in, and he had to watch most of them go OB, right? So you have Isaac who hit really short and roll. You have Ezra who clacked the top of the rock, clearly hit the rock, and you have Aaron, and none of them feel that consequential in the moment, right? Because you think they all are going to just walk up here and know what happened. So when they get up there and all of a sudden you're like, I don't think you hit the rock.
Yeah, you get put on a spot.
Well, now it's like
you get put on a spot.
Aaron's up there and you're just kind of standing there like, I don't think it hit the rock. And then it's like, well, he's the one who's closest.
Yeah.
So what is it? So they're going to listen to you. So then Jeff Spring's listening to you, and all of a sudden you're like, well, I just said he didn't hit the rock. Like, he didn't hit the rock.
Yeah, they get thrown into it pretty quick.
Well, like what else are you supposed to do?
Exactly.
Be like, oh, it did hit the rock. Okay, we'll say it did
exactly, because then
what else are you supposed to do?
That's what I'm saying.
It's a hard situation.
In
to
that
be
situation, if
he's between a rock and a hard place.
Nice. If you thought it didn't hit the rock, like
what was book?
That's what I'm saying. I would have done the exact same thing if I was a spotter. If I said it didn't hit the rock, well, I'm going to convince myself it didn't hit the rock, because like. It also had happened minutes and minutes ago. Like, it's not like I just watched it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, his only hope was, like, if there was, like, right there before everybody got up, if there was somebody on the other side of the wall, just be like, hey, did that hit the rock? Oh, it did.
Not to mention, he had plenty of time to listen to all of The Prisoner of Azkaban on audiobook while Gossage was getting ready to throw. So he was already knee-deep.
Anyways, whether that – he loses 3 strokes there. So now he's tied with Isaac Robinson. Calvin Heimberg is 2 strokes back. So that moment alone did not lose him the tournament. My argument, what it did to him mentally did.
Oh, yeah.
Because the combination of hole 14, the dude was just kind of on cruise control to a certain extent.
The tee shot really started it, but that was...
From then on, like, he was just in a mental pretzel. And so then now we have to start giving our flowers to Calvin Heimberg, though. Because what Calvin Heimberg does is he steps up on the next tee shot, throws a great tee shot, throws a great second shot, and is the only player final day to eagle hole 15. He hits actually, how far did they give it to him? I think it's like 50-some feet, 56.
It was uphill, good putt.
Uphill, 56-footer, bangs that putt. So that gains him only 1 stroke, because hole 15, very easy birdie.
Super easy.
But very tough eagle. So Calvin gains 1 there. So that earns him the tee on 16. Right now he is down 1 to the boys. To Isaac and Aaron.
The boys.
Heck yeah.
So he steps up on the tee of 16. The coverage does not do justice to the headwind he was facing.
I think you can see how fast his disc flipped at least, and like how much it got bodied, and understand it was
because
gusting.
On 16 you have these 2 landing zones, and Calvin threw the farthest shot I think I've ever seen during a round of disc golf. I've seen farther ones in distance competitions, but I've never, ever, like this shot went 700 feet.
We also did brush over Calvin on 14, went through an awesome upshot and then missed like a 25-footer to birdie.
Yeah.
Like it could have been worse for Aaron on that hole.
It could have been, but I think at that moment no one was really thinking about any other player.
It was like a side note.
Aaron also had like a 30-some footer for 6 that he missed on top of all of that.
It was a scary one.
It all started. But anyways,
I'd be afraid to be in an Inside Out movie on that guy's head.
So 16, it looked like Calvin turned it over too much. It flexed out beautifully. I mean, going air shot to the second landing zone even is just crazy.
Yeah, it looked burned.
A lot of people go roller, but it flexes out beautifully. 700-plus foot shot. The dude's within 300 of the basket for birdie. Honestly, felt like eagle, but for birdie. And then you have everyone else chips up. So chip up. After 2 shots, they're lying next to Calvin, right? Gossage ends up putting it a little bit outside. Like Calvin puts it to like 25-ish. We'll give him 22, somewhere in there. Aaron puts it maybe 3 feet out. Isaac sails his.
Shank.
OB. Deep. Not
bad.
even close.
It was bad.
So it's like, okay, Isaac's going to be down some, but we're going to have Calvin and Aaron all of a sudden are going to be tied. That's what it feels like in the gallery. And then Aaron steps up first, misses the putt.
Hits the sleeve on the pole from inside of 30.
Very bad putt. Very bad
great.
putt. Which that one didn't shock me.
Rolls to
20.
Let's give him 18.
It doesn't surprise you because it's a terrifying putt. Like if you sail past the basket,
it more didn't surprise me because it was Aaron.
Well,
that's kind of that's his miss. Is
uphill. Like I mean,
it was Aaron in that moment, and the context of what has happened to him.
Yeah,
I was like, this dude is definitely missing this putt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I also knew Calvin is definitely making this putt. That was like the two certainties in my head. What I wasn't certain on was the next putt missed by Aaron, which was his putt for 5. And then, obviously, he ended up taking the 6.
Almost threw his mini to the moon.
Yeah. So,
wouldn't have
all of a
him.
sudden,
moment.
Wouldn't have blamed him.
Calvin Heimberg, down by 5, takes a 2-stroke lead, going into 17.
Yep.
Hunter, how awkward was the air you were breathing in that moment whenever that was all happening?
We had all started moving. Obviously, because Aaron's facing away from us, and at this point, everyone's like, "This is going to be now." Calvin's going to be up by 1.
You're trying to get in position on 17.
You're trying to get in position on 17.
Yeah, got to.
So we're all kind of just walking towards 17 because, like, props to it. This is a pretty big gallery. I know on coverage it didn't look like it because Ivy holds so many people.
Yeah,
but like
it was at least like 150.
What?
The gallery?
What? 150 people?
I thought it
was probably 1,000.
Really?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Ivy holds it so well.
Okay, well then coverage didn't look like that at all.
No, at least like at least 600 or 700.
Okay,
like it was. That's what I'm saying. It was like
there's so much space.
It was bigger than a normal pro tour. I've been to
Okay.
several pro tours, but there's so much space to spread out. Because like for instance, hole 16 is 1,000 feet. The fairway was lined pretty much, almost.
Yeah.
The whole side. So like 1,000 feet of people standing next to each other. We're all what? 2 feet wide,
and it might not be one layer.
Well, they were also were already people lining up on 17, because like as soon as the drives through, like pretty much everyone around me was like, we got to get to 17 because they knew in their head Calvin's it's about to be a 3-way tie going to 17. So that's the problem, was like you had a group behind the gallery that was probably 150. But then the majority of us were up in front of everyone, and we were spread out all over the place.
It's probably what it is. I think on coverage is you see one group at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so each time you see a group of people, you're like, yeah, there's a few hundred people out there. But then, you're right.
I feel like there's probably closer to 1,000, but I would bet a lot of money there's at least 500.
I mean,
my quick math says 1,003.
I say being on grounds, I wasn't on the course that day, but being in like the vending area and the parking, there definitely was a ton of cars.
That's what I'm saying. There was more than 150 cars, so assuming all of them had. But I'm very confident saying there was at least 500. Very confident there's at least 500.
I guess that explains why some people online didn't really could grasp it.
No, that's what I'm saying. The Ivy just holds people so well because and that's why it makes it so so easy to view, because it's all the elevation and everything. Because you could see the shots from hundreds and hundreds of feet away. So you never had to be
such a fun course to watch on.
Anyways, they go into 17. At this point, it's basically like if Calvin Heimberg puts this on the island, it's over. And he walked up. This is actually the first time I think I've ever seen this in a Disc Golf Pro Tour event. Him and his caddy walked onto the tee to feel the wind and talk it out. So him and Joey Tamale was his caddy, walked up and they talked for like a few seconds about because it was very windy out there. They talked for a few seconds. They both looked at each other and nodded, and then he walked back, grabbed one disc, stepped up, and put it on the island. And there you had it. That's all she wrote.
All I had to do. Yeah, 5 is just not going to create that much separation.
Yeah, because then at that point, I mean, Gossage put it on the island, and he could have had it 2 strokes going into 18, but even that, I mean, he would have had to. It really would have had to been a birdie bogey, which that could have happened.
2 strokes would have put actual pressure on Calvin, whereas 3, I just don't think there was going to be a lot of pressure.
But he had Gossage put it to circle 2, missed that putt, tapped out. And so then Calvin Heimberg, there was nothing to be done.
Good for Calvin, dude.
Calvin took it down.
Calvin's really good, and so I do.
This was a classic case of as much as Aaron lost it, Calvin won it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Calvin had to be there to flip flop it.
Well, again, he was the only player that eagled hole 15, and he was the only player in the field that birdied hole 16, and he did them both from behind, trying to catch the wind back to back.
Yeah.
Only player in the field that day that did either of those and did them both back to back.
So that was the desperation it took to actually go for it.
I became a Calvin fan from watching this, and the reason being, I wasn't really a hard rooting for Calvin person in the past, just because I like personality, and there's not much of it going around with Calvin. He's just not a very expressive person, which is fine. It's just I like to root for people who seem like they have a good personality. Well, it turns out he's just a very respectful, awesome competitor, because I loved watching his interview at the end.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he really respectfully worded the fact that he won, but it took a lot of things going his way to get him there. Because that's what he said. He said, I started off really rough, whatever. And he said, I played some really good golf on that last stretch, but things also had to go my way. And those things going my way is also what got me here. And then Perkins asked him about how, he was the only one to eagle and birdie certain holes. And he said, well, I'm just a person that I want to either win it or lose it on my own. I don't want anything that another player does to be what causes my outcome. So in order to take control, I decided I was just going to go for it on those holes, and that would either make me win it or make me lose it. And I thankfully just got all of them. And I think that was like a really respectful way to word all of that. Made me a big Calvin fan. I love Calvin now.
Well,
me and Robbie C.
The brutal part for Aaron, we had to look at a few things here. First, Aaron Gossage started at 3 under par. So he started 4 strokes back of Calvin Heimberg, 5 strokes back of Gannon Burr. So he was able to put himself in contention, obviously, with where his stroke head start was. But then these last few holes cost him $18,000. That's the difference here. Was because
that's crazy.
30 to 15 was the drop off, but then he tied for second, meaning really he ends up at like 12 and a half. So I guess it's 17 and some change, 17,500 or something. But basically,
and that's before Uncle Sam gets his share.
Almost $18,000 is what this cost him. Because like that's the thing about this tournament is, obviously the stroke head start. Some people love it, some people hate it. It is what it is. I freaking love it because obviously we also still got a phenomenal tournament out of this with a jumbled up leaderboard as predicted, even with the stroke head start. But you have guys like Ezra Robinson on hole 18 has a putt for birdie out of the tournament, right? He's down at this point by like 8 or 6, somewhere in there. But that putt was the difference between if he makes the putt, he's in solo 4th. If he misses the putt, he's tied for 4th. That's a few $1,000. I
just had a great idea.
And he misses it, punches the ground's ticked. And like in the moment, I was so focused on Calvin Aaron. I was like, all I knew was that putt just lost him for sure.
They feel free, DGN, to steal this idea for next year's tour championship. When you put the leaderboard up, or like a player, like they're getting ready to throw their shot and you see him, tied first or whatever, put the current dollar amount they are sitting at on the leaderboard,
so that you know how much that putt is.
Imagine somebody misses a putt and it goes Antique Roadshow style, goes doo-doo-doo-doo, and you see their dollar amount
that would be
drop.
Sick. That would be sick.
Because then you feel what the players are feeling too. Oh, that was $3,000 on 18. You just thought like that would be epic.